Hi, my name is Dan. I'm 27 years old. I moved from Israel to London, and currently I'm the head of business development in eRated. I'm one of the founders, and I'm part of Techstars right now. Well, eRated was created to solve the problem of trust online. Currently, there are 100 million sellers operating in over 1,000 marketplaces, and still one of the biggest issues online is how do I get the buyer to trust the seller? eRated solved this problem using a simple solution that plugs into the marketplaces and shows the credibility of each and every individual online. Well, that's a tough question. I come from the identity space. So what I did, I created a single identity in the enterprise world, and that's what I did for about 4 years in the States. And then I saw a lecture about collaborative consumption, and I understood how it's going to change the whole space of peer-to-peer transactions and how it's going to create a lot of these different online marketplaces. But still, how do I get that single identity feeling that I have in the physical world, that I can trust that individual that is transacting with me online? So eRated is like a manifestation of what we have in the enterprise world and what do we have in credit scores in the physical world that makes me trust you and makes me transact with you. So this is exactly what we built online. This is like credit score 2.0 or the enabler of transactions online. Well, we started about a year and change ago. And first off, we wanted to assemble the best team for this task. So with me, I have 2 additional founders, and we have a couple of employees as well. One of my founders is one of the best designers in the world, and I think that he is able to really bring to life our solution and our approach to how reputation should be managed today. And my other co-founder is Boaz. He's also technical like me. He was also an engineer in the army. And what we wanted to build is, first off, we wanted to identify what was the key issue that was preventing a person from transacting. And that's visibility. How do I know if that data is somewhere online? How do I know that this person is credible or not? And that's why we essentially created the widget that plugs into the marketplaces itself and enriches the existing seller profile within any marketplace we partner up with. So essentially our goal is to partner up with as many marketplaces as we can and just create a layer of trust through tapping into the billions of transactions that already happen online. And this is done through a simple widget of how a person is transacting across eBay or Amazon or Airbnb and so on and so on. Our target group, well, it separates into 2. First off, we partner up with marketplaces, and currently we're targeting marketplaces of all shapes and sizes. We are talking with the eBays of the world, and we are talking with the small marketplaces of the world, some that we don't know of yet, and hopefully they'll become big as we hope. And once we partner up with them, we help their sellers grow. I mean, that's our goal. So we partner up with the marketplaces first, and then we help the sellers in those communities to actually transact with each other. So I think that it separates into 2, exactly. I think that the space was rather new up until now. I think that in 1995 there was eBay and Amazon, but today there are over 1,000 marketplaces. So the space is rather new, first off. And some companies try to build that notion of credit score online. But first off, they approach it from the finance side. So how do I give a score to an individual that will indicate whether he's trustworthy or not? And that's what companies like TrustCloud or Legit try to do. And that essentially is great from the finance world, but it doesn't really correlate to something that the buyer can understand. If I tell you, hey man, you're an 800 on TrustCloud, or hey man, you're 600 on a different credit scoring system, what does that really mean to the buyer? I mean, I don't know what it means, and I don't think any other buyer that is simple like me understands it. So we try to tap into the notion of what buyers already understand, and that's the stars and that's the positive % of how this person is interacting online. And we bring all this complex algorithms that we built into something very simple that the buyers already understand. And I think that's the approach that will conquer the market, or that's the approach that will better win the market. Because essentially you're going into the space of a marketplace that already has something built, whether they already have a reputation system or not. And you want to easily integrate into into what they're already doing. So if you come there and say, I know something better than you, that's not the approach that we believe can really win the market. So that's why we come to the marketplace, we partner with them, and we build a solution together to help them enable their sellers and buyers to make more transactions. And I think that's the different approach from the competitors. Also, some of these different companies try to really monetize on these small marketplaces. And just saying it from the standpoint of a startup itself, startups don't really have money. And it's not the approach that will really build a sustainable business model moving forward. So our business model is to actually become a brand for reputation. I think that it's very powerful. Like VeriSign created the brand for whether a site is secure or not. I think that reputation is an asset that all of us can build, use, and monetize on. And I think that one company will really conquer the market in the field of reputation, and one company will really conquer the market and establish a brand for reputation and help people transact online. That's valuable. And that's why investors also invested in this notion. I think that the ability to really enable sellers to transact more and establish their business online and to facilitate all these different transactions is valuable, and that's how we're operating on monetary end, I think. Techstars, I think, is one of the best experiences that we had as a business. I mean, we came with a very clear notion of what we need to do and how do we need to build it, and with the traction that we already got back in Israel. But I think Techstars did us two of the very important things that startups need. First off, because our business is based on relationships, then we need a lot of doors open. How do I get to the eBays of the world? How do I get to the Rakutens of the world? How do I get to the Airbnbs of the world? And I think Techstars was able to facilitate a lot of these different connections that we needed to partner up with all these different marketplaces. And the second thing, I think it allowed us to really focus on the task that we have at hand. I think that we have a big challenge in front of us, and I think Techstars was one of the best catalyzers to really establish this brand for us. I think that the biggest challenges today in a business such as ours, or in establishing a brand for reputation, is just getting market adoption. I mean, we already shown that we were able to increase seller conversion rates in the marketplaces that we partnered up with. And we were already able to see growth in marketplaces, and we were able to accelerate more and more transactions in the sites that we were already got into. But getting to those people, convincing the marketplaces that we have a product that can help. I mean, we're a free solution for the marketplace, so there's nothing that they can really lose from it. But going into a site and telling them, hey guys, I have something that can really help your business grow, that's always hard, especially when you're tackling it from the B2B angle. And the second thing is, how do I get sellers that haven't seen a model like ours up until now really adopt us as a service that can really help them? And I think those are the key elements that pose as a challenge for a business such as ours. So I think this boils down to how eRated works. Essentially, first off, we aggregate all the information that a seller has accumulated to his name, whether it is from eBay or Airbnb or from the marketplaces that we already partnered up with. Second, after we bring all this information, we weighted and segmented all the information to different segments of the market. So eBay reputation is not exactly like Airbnb reputation, and Airbnb reputation does not exactly correlate to Odesk information. So first off, by separating this information and weighting it in different manners, I think we were able to better localize and fit our solution to the marketplaces that have already partnered with us. Second, I think that by being the trusted third party and not being part of the marketplaces itself, that gives us the objectiveness that we need in order to solve this problem of trust online. Because if eBay were to say, trust this guy, we vetted it for him, then it may work for some of the buyers. But if a trusted third party comes in and say, trust me, because I'm the neutral, I'm Switzerland of the online reputation, I think that really changes the game, and I think that's what allows us to actually become neutral, because no seller can actually change the reputation in our site without providing the real data or the real facts. And no marketplace can really change the information on our site without providing real facts. So that's the difference in our approach. Hopefully. I think that credit scores in the physical world were good for a lot of different purposes, and I think that's what's being used today to actually determine whether you can loan someone some money or whether you can rent an apartment. And I think that as more and more businesses go and become online, peer-to-peer lending or peer-to-peer transactions. I mean, now there are companies like Cabbage and Iowaka that assess your social behavior and give you loans. I think that eRated is going to become an integral part of how we conduct business and how do we determine whether a person should be trusted or not, or should be credible or not. And I think that by combining all the pieces together, eRated is going to become something very important in the future of peer-to-peer transactions. Well, we've seen that immediately once we partnered up with the marketplaces. First off, the marketplaces get more money because they get a cut of the transaction itself. So once sellers make more money, the marketplace makes more money. I think this model should enable more and more businesses that aren't transacting online to actually go online and start selling products, or start renting out their apartments, or start providing services online, because it's very, very hard when you start. I mean, if we know that 70% of buyers will never shop or rent an item from a seller with no reputation, how does a small business start online? I mean, if you go to a marketplace, and that's easier than opening your own site, even there, I mean, you're not visible. You're like a ghost. And that's exactly what I think eRated can do, because even by showing this person has a lot of traction on his social networks, or this person has this education and that education, or this person has already sold 2 products on eBay and now I'm taking that into Airbnb, I think that's really valuable and can really help small businesses or new people going into the online world really accelerate their business. I think that the collaborative economy is one of the most disruptive changes that we've seen up until now in the peer-to-peer space. I think that if online or marketplaces up until now were the biggest driver for e-commerce transactions, I think that collaborative consumption has opened a complete new space, and I think that's extremely exciting. I mean, if I thought up until now that my mom would never use the internet or my mom would never make transactions online with other individuals, my mom has already rented her apartment on Airbnb. I mean, that's huge. I think it opened a lot of doors to a lot of people that weren't accessible to peer-to-peer transactions or to peer-to-peer marketplaces. And I think it's going to disrupt a lot of conventional industries with new and exciting changes. And I also think that it empowers a lot of individuals. If you would ask me what are the 3 main challenges today in collaborative consumption, I would say that first off, it's regulation. I think that countries are, and I understand governments that want to tax or they want to regulate this business because it opens a lot of space for fraud, but I think that regulation is going to be one of the key challenges in this industry. I think that taxation is extremely difficult, and I don't know exactly how it's going to be solved. Amazon today, they let you file your taxes from the marketplace itself. So I think they did a good step into that direction. And I think trust. I mean, if there are so many different platforms out there and they all try and facilitate peer-to-peer transactions, it opens a lot of space for fraud. And I mean, we're all in the same space because we want to transact together. And I think that it's very difficult without knowing who the person on the other side of the screen is. Well, the ultimate goal for eRated is to become a brand or a standard for reputation, that people are going to check my eRated score before they transact with me, or that people will become more confident in making peer-to-peer transactions. I think that it's still not there, and I think that that a lot of advances were made in that space, or a lot of fraud detection tools were made in that space, but I think that it all boils down to whether I feel confident in transacting online, or if I feel confident in renting someone my house. And I think that still this market is not accessible to all of these different individuals because no one gives them the assurance that nothing bad will happen. So I think that by building a brand for reputation, or by building this credit score 2.0, it will enable a lot of new businesses, and it will enable a lot of people to actually interact together.